everybody. Welcome to another episode of Bill Has Opinions, the Gen X Problem with a Drinking Show. I am Laura, and I am here with Bill, who has opinions.
Hey.
Welcome.
How's it going, everybody? Boy, we got a show for you tonight.
I just flew in from LA. Boy, are my arms tired.
That's right.
Yeah. So, yes, so this is our comedy show, but let's start out with the way we always start out with shit. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Oh, great.
We are going to amuse ourselves. You might not find this funny. Feel free to tune out if you don't like it. But we are going to be highly amused. Also, I encourage you to stick around because we never know when we're going to be funny. We might be...
We never know when we're going to be funny.
Randomly funny.
I know sometimes I'm going to be funny.
Yeah.
I got an inkling. Yeah. How's your week been, though?
Well, it's Monday.
Yeah?
So,
yeah.
We had a nice weekend. It was the continuation of birthday week. Matt's birthday was Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. You went and had some beers somewhere?
Had some beers somewhere, went hiking. And then, yeah.
Brilliant.
That was that.
All right. Well, speaking of beers, what are we drinking today?
Well, I'm about done. This is nothing. I mean, it is something. But I am about to switch to the Lower Falls IPA.
Okay.
I'm still sticking with my beer-flavored beer, low alcohol. All day
IPA. I've got today a Kolsch from a local brewery over in Hendersonville. The how do you pronounce that? Is it Guidon or Guidon?
I have absolutely no idea.
I want to say it's Guidon. It's whatever you call these little pennant flags that military people fly, because the guy's ex-military. That's why it's called that. That's like whatever platoon you're in or whatever. Mm-hmm. They have their own little flag for every platoon or something like that. I think that's what it's called. Right. Anyway, I think he was stationed in Germany.
What is it called?
Guidon. Okay, so it's like the lady with the big purple hat from Star Trek.
That's Guinan. That's different. That's humor, folks.
Anyway, I think the guy was stationed in Germany because he mostly makes German style beers, and that's what he does now. But anyway, the local bottle shop, not the one I usually go to, but this one's in Saluda. Oh. There's a place called Mudlick's, which is a wine and beer and tea and random other crap store. But they have an interesting selection sometimes, and sometimes they'll have one of these little pints by this local brewery. And when they do, I usually grab one.
You can tell that's a local brewery because look at that label right there. That is, somebody had clip art and made a logo or made a beer label out of that.
Right.
I know multiple graphic designers who'd be happy to help you with your beer labels.
Yeah. Yeah, it's essentially just a small growler, I think, that they put out. You know what I mean? Like, it's not even like they don't seriously... I was surprised the first time I saw it in the store, because I thought you could only get it at the brewery, but well, there you go.
Right.
Then later on, I've got it's not a leftover. We talked about this briefly because it was on the list, but then I was at the store the other day and I saw them. Omission Brewing Company, which is mostly gluten-free. This one's gluten-reduced. It's Ultimate Light Golden Ale. Legally,
they have to say they're gluten-reduced.
They can't promise you won't get some glutens.
Yeah, exactly. But... have you tried it yet?
I have had one. Yeah, okay. It's pretty good.
Okay.
3 carbs, 99 calories. This one. Another holdover thing I want to mention about our last show. I was drinking a beer I had gotten from Goose Island, right?
Oh yeah, the evil beer, it was
called Solo. It was a light IPA. Mm-hmm. Well, I have over the last week opened up 3 or 4 of those, and every one of them exploded the same way that the one on the air did. So I learned that the key to making IPA a lower carb and lower calorie is that you only get to drink half of it. And so, yeah.
Yeah, no, I had the same problem. You had left a couple here, and nobody wanted to drink them. So I attempted to very carefully, open them in the sink.
And it exploded, right?
Everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Mike, motherfucker! Like I was in the sink trying to do it where it wouldn't explode.
That's what happened every one I opened. So I don't know whether that batch was just on a truck with no shocks or what the heck happened, but
yeah, no, something went wrong. Which, by the way, if you're owned by Budweiser and it goes that wrong in the canning process, like, yeah there's no.
Somebody over in quality control needs to be fired. Huh?
Yeah, we need to sue them like a class action lawsuit.
Yeah.
I was traumatized by that beer. All right. So now that we've talked about beers, which is not always a funny discussion, especially when they explode on you, the show today, we're talking comedy.
Yeah.
So definitely tune in with your laughter and tell us we're hilarious because we like that.
Right.
But we're talking about all things comedy.
We sure are.
And it's a big topic, so.
Yep. I mean, guys, have you seen the news this week? Holy cow! Let me tell you. Woo! No, I'm not gonna do any topical comedy because I don't want to do that because the big topic this week has been taught to death. There's no point.
Right. It did happen to involve a comedian.
It did, and it went to show that comedy is not always pretty.
That's true. That is very true. And also, Jay, beers can make anything funny. As we always say, our show is far funnier when you're drinking.
That's right.
It's far funnier when we're drinking.
Either way. Both things are true.
Both are kind of an important part of the process.
Speaking of drinking and comedy, so Horse walks into a bar, and the bartender says, "Why the long face?" Horse says, "My alcoholism is killing my family."
Dear God. Yeah. Although, so to that point, one of my favorite forms of comedy is like alternative comedy, which is a specific where it tends to be introspective and you don't expect the punchline. Like there isn't a punchline. It's just introspective and you're like, huh.
Okay.
And I love that shit. It's more hilarious to me than like
I tried looking that up, but I didn't really understand. Like there was not it was more of like a timeline thing than a real explanation of what made this different from that.
It is.
You know, like so. But it's like, probably a Venn diagram too because
all comedy is. Really.
All comedy is actually. I said that earlier when I was sending you the notes. Our show is not scripted, by the way, folks, but we do make an outline every week. We kind of like, I don't know, just so we don't go off the rails. I guess,
we attempt not to go off the rails. And
to make sure we cover some topics that we wanted to cover. So
right. So we're not scripted, but we at least have a guideline. Sometimes we go off the rails.
Oh, yeah, we do. But I mean, you know, we like to have that at least as a backup so we know what the hell's going on.
Right. So why don't you give us, was that your monologue?
No, that was not my monologue. My monologue is actually this. This guy goes into a bar and he's got this octopus with him, right? Puts the octopus up on the bar. He says, "I'll bet everybody in here $50 this octopus can play any instrument you bring to him," right? And somebody's like, "Oh, okay, I'll take that bet." And they run out for a minute, come from next door, hand the octopus a banjo. Octopus, twing, 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 twing. He tunes it up. Next thing you know, he's belting out Smoky Mountain Breakdown like you never believe. Like, oh my gosh, like wow. I would have thought Flat and Scruggs were in the building, So they're like, well, shit, somebody gives the guy $50. Somebody else is like, all right, I got it. And he's like, I'll be back in 10 minutes. He runs down the street, returns, he's got a trumpet. Hands the trumpet to the octopus. Octopus picks it up, starts blowing in it, and he's pumping out Taste of Honey by like Herb Alpert, And everybody's like, God damn, like this is crazy. And so they give the guy another $50. Somebody's like, all right, I got it. And I'll be back. And he runs down the street, returns half hour later with an accordion. Hands out, puts the accordion. He gives it a few squeezes, and then he's like belting out Lady of Spain like you never believe, right? People are like, damn, this octopus is crazy. He knows all the things. Finally, the owner of the place is like, all right, I got something that'll blow his mind. Like, so he goes upstairs and comes back down, throws some bagpipes at him. You know, octopus picks it up and he's looking at it, kind of puzzled, looking at it. Finally, the guy who brought the octopus, he walks in and he's like, "Hey, like, when are you going to play this thing?" And he's like, "Play it? When I get its pajamas off, I'm going to fuck it." There's my monologue.
Well done. Congratulations.
All right.
Good job. So yeah. So here's the thing. Like, my father loved to tell jokes, and usually they were probably not jokes that any human being should still
You didn't want to hear them.
Yeah. And so I learned early on that my favorite kind of comedy, which is why I bring up alternative comedy, is stuff without punchlines.
Okay.
Like, it's just stream of consciousness, and it's funny because it's relatable.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's just absurd.
Yeah.
And it's funny for all those reasons. But I have one joke in my repertoire.
All right, tell it.
One joke.
Let's hear it.
Only joke I know. A string walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Hey, we don't serve strings here." The string says, "Okay." And he walks back out of the bar. Ties himself into a knot. Frays out his little ends. He walks back into the bar. And the bartender says, "Hey, aren't you the string I just kicked out of here?" He said, "Nope, I'm afraid not." Very proud of that joke. It's the only actual joke I have. Otherwise, if I'm funny, it's just because I said shit that was funny.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm going to go off a little bit here because I do have like a little bit of a background thing on this. Well, I grew up in front of the TV. My mom was a single parent, and so the TV was my babysitter a lot. I watched a lot of TV, watched a lot of sitcoms and a lot of talk shows and skit comedy and whatnot. So that I guess it's during my formative years there was a lot of comedy involved, I suppose.
Sure.
Also, I guess my granddad was kind of a joker, fancied himself. I wouldn't say a comedian, but he definitely had a sense of humor. It wasn't always funny to everybody, but he certainly liked to laugh and have a good time. Cut up, as my aunt would say.
Right.
To that degree, I think that was like one of the things I inherited from him. Was that, and some of it was kind of liking to get a rise out of people sometimes, as part of the funny. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute.
Right.
But anyway, grew up with all that stuff, and then trying to remember what my earliest exposure to an actual like a stand-up type routine was probably. I feel like I probably watched a Carlin special way before I should have, to be honest with you, because I watched a lot of unmonitored HBO.
Right.
I feel like I watched the Carlin at Carnegie special, which came out in the 80s.
Sure,
like when I was younger, and I probably didn't get half of it.
Right.
But I will say that like he is definitely like a comedian who I feel like his stuff to this day still sort of stands up. Like, he was a brilliant fucking comedian, and I'd put him in the top 10 of best comedians. Just because he was the person, he was like very blunt, and he liked to call bullshit on the dumb stuff that people did.
Exactly. Exactly. It was almost less comedy, more commentary.
It really was.
And it was just observational humor, which I also love, and just about the absurdity of the things that we do. Like, there's a whole bit he has that about what we would now call global warming, right? About pollution and things like that. And he's like, the earth has been around for billions of years. It's going to continue to be around just because we invented plastic. And now we're just going to be a new thing, earth plus plastic. And I've always, I'm not a climate change denier by any means. But I also believe at this point, it's kind of too late to put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Right.
So we are earth plus plastic. Like, that's just observational humor now.
Oh, yeah. And I don't think he was saying that, like, it won't have any effect on us. The point is, the earth will still be here. Human beings might not.
It's just earth plus plastic.
And sans human beings eventually.
Exactly.
Because that's what, honestly, the Earth will continue, but the human race may not if we continue to do the things we do.
If it's a trajectory of millions of years, billions of years of the Earth, and other things have come and gone, it stands to reason so will people.
Yes. Our heyday will be over.
At some point, we will be like the dinosaurs, and whatever takes our place, we'll find our bones and be like, what's this thing?
Yeah, but anyway, so there was that, and then I guess there's you had also growing up, you had your stupid kid jokes, like knock jokes, and your thing, your one-liners or I don't know if you call them one-liners, but like here's the thing and here's the punchline, kind of, what do you call a blah blah blah,
right? Right.
Anyway, that kind of stuff, and then of course you get to be about, I don't know, 4th grade, and you hear your first dirty joke, blue jokes as they used to call them, the ones that you hear when you're in 4th grade are like not terribly funny, and they have a dire misunderstanding of how sex really works. I think.
Right, exactly.
Like there's a lot of them I've re-examined over the years because I'm cursed with remembering things. So I pretty much remember everything I've ever been told, and so I remember a lot of dumbass, dirty jokes I heard as a child, and I'm like, geez, that's just an awful. Like it's not even funny.
Right.
And it doesn't work on any level, And I don't know. So, but I guess it works on a kid level of like, I don't understand sex. I don't understand female anatomy.
Right.
Whatever.
Right. Which makes it weirdly problematic for girls because that's.
I imagine because you guys had to hear them and go, yeah. But you didn't really want to like jump in and correct. Like,
yeah. Well, actually, also when you're in 4th grade, you don't know yet. No one's. I guess
there's plenty of grown ass women actually who don't understand their own anatomy too.
Also
I've heard.
True. Yeah, I have heard that.
So they might be like, fair enough.
This is an entirely different show, as it were. But we do a shitty job of teaching other humans about how humans work.
Yeah.
Like just from the start.
Oh man.
We're very bad at that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's station break here.
Let's do it.
All right, I'm gonna do this one. I was gonna pick a comedy one, but the reason I'm putting this up here, although I gotta change it because now we're not necessarily at a distance anymore. But I will be, and my beloved partner Matt, of course, will be at the Purple Onion on Thursday this week. So I'm excited about it. So I wanted to promote it.
We'll be glad to have you there. I told Laura about, I don't know if you guys remember, several episodes back, I was raving about a particular musician who I had seen at Purple Onion. Well, he's coming back, and I was like, hey, you guys should come see this guy because he's awesome. And he's actually a local to Saluda. He lives in Saluda. And
I do, after you told me who he was, I popped him on Spotify, and I was like, wow, this shit's good. This is my shit.
Yeah. So if you're in the area on Thursday night, stop by the Purple Onion. Michael Flynn will be playing. Michael Flynn, who he's got some good tunes, and his music's been featured on Grey's Anatomy and in some commercials and some other shit, but he's a good songwriter, and I really like him. He's kind of like a less funny Tim Minchin, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely is more straight folk, Tim Minchin would
but he's got his music reminded me of a bit of, it was like Leonard Cohen meets Tim Minchin kind of stuff,
Also, part of the reason I love this graphic, I'm very proud of it, is that I changed the logo to say Bill has onions.
Oh, very funny.
So I wanted to make sure.
Because onions and opinions are very similar.
Very similar words.
They look similar.
Yeah.
And that's what's funny about it.
Exactly. So, all right, that's done. Oh, hey, Heather, are you here to laugh? Because we're hilarious.
That's right.
What? Why did you download the comedy app? All right. Let's start in. Let's dig into this very broad topic.
Let's do it. All right.
So you sent me a bunch of notes.
I did.
Types of humor.
All right. Hey, I want to back up before we start talking about types of humor.
All right.
I want to preempt it, and I want to ask a question. Do you think wit and comedy are the same thing? Are they different versions of the same thing? Are they like slight, like adjacent? What do you think?
I think Yeah, that's a tough one, right? Because they're at the very least kissing cousins.
Yeah.
But I think without wit, it's hard to have good comedy.
Okay.
And like I said, my favorite kind of comedy is not knock jokes or, afraid not jokes or whatever, a rabbi walks into a bar. It's that wit. It's that this is funny because
well, so this
funny.
is the thing because all my life, I've been sort of the class clown at school and whatnot, and people would come over to me like after school and they'd be like, "Hey, Bill, say something." They'd say something funny, and I'm like, "I don't really work that way. Like, that's not how it works. Like because I'm not a comedian. I don't drop jokes. I've always said, especially since I've been like an adult and I'm aware of it. I'm like, no, I'm not funny. I'm witty. It's different,
sure,
because it's basically like I'm quick with a comeback, or I can riff with people,
right?
And that's when it's funny, right?
Yes.
But if I was just sitting here talking about myself, it wouldn't be terribly funny. Like, it might be for a minute or two, but then it would stop because it's the interactions that make me. Which is
why we have this show,
exactly,
right? This is how it came about.
Yeah, exactly.
And I agree. My comedy is the same way. I'm good with witty comebacks. I'm good with, this is funny because it's situational. But I'm not gonna just tell it. Like, I would never get on stage and do stand-up comedy.
I don't have a tight 10 or anything like that. Like, I'm not gonna be able to, like, people say, "Hey, tell us something funny," because that's. And I don't know if that even works with comedians unless they did say, "Okay, I'll tell you my tight 10." That's what they're gonna do if you put them on the spot. Like, tell me something funny.
Exactly. So I would say that the two are very interwoven.
I get you. I don't think comedians can be not witty. I think you'd be a pretty terrible comedian if you had no wit.
Yeah, and if you look at some of our examples,
you don't consider Oscar Wilde or Shakespeare to be comedians.
But they produce comedy. Shakespeare definitely produced.
Yeah, he was the top comedy writer of his day.
There's a whole genre of his plays that are considered comedies. It's not slapstick humor. It's witty.
Right, it's witty. Exactly. That's what I'm getting at. And definitely like Oscar Wilde, you don't think of him as a comedian, but you read the shit he said and you're like, that dude was fucking witty.
Right.
Like, that's and it is it's like slight guffaw funny. It's not laugh out loud funny,
right.
Well,
it's a humorist,
Dave Barry.
Like Dave Barry or Fran Lebowitz. Fran Lebowitz isn't inherently funny. She's not even trying to be. She's just witty enough and fast on her feet and can come in with some comment that makes it funny. But she's not a comedian. Mm-hmm. She's a humorist.
Right.
She's an observational humorist. And I love that shit. I think that is far and above just I
would say that's another thing. Actually, as a kid, I used to. It's not as a kid, but okay. So fucking comics, we've spoken about this in the last week betwixt ourselves. But Burke Breathed, Bloom County. I used to read that as a child. I love that shit.
Yes.
Far Side, that kind of stuff. Those were
the funny pages.
The funny pages, but those were actually two that were funny.
Yeah.
Most of the shit in the funny pages was not funny, but if you flipped over to the Far Side and Bloom County, you might actually laugh.
Right, but again, it's not joke punchline, it's observational humor.
Right.
And, yeah, which I think is far and above punchline humor, but I suppose we can get into that with types of humor and
sure.
things. So
okay.
So you now send me a list
types of humor. Now we can talk about types of humor.
And there's a number. Obviously, I just said, situational humor is a completely different kind of humor than any other. It's not a joke. It's not an insult. It's not a prank. It's not wordplay. You sent me all those.
Yes.
Right.
I get you. Yeah. I thought about this when I was on the way over here too, because I didn't mention this, but gallows humor, which is a type of situational humor. Since you brought that up,
right?
And it's a thing I think it's very popular, especially with Gen X, because it's almost our coping mechanism to trauma, right? It's. I always say, and I've said this. I've even told my kids this because my son said this to me one time. He's like, "Dad, you sure do laugh a lot," and I said, "Well, son, you have to laugh to keep from crying.
Yeah.
And I said that, and I was kind of jesting, but I kind of wasn't jesting.
No, 100%.
Because there's always truth in jesting.
Honestly, yes. I mean, that's actually something that is ingrained in me. I remember when I was a little kid, some of my earliest traumas, I remember that, we'd tell the stories like they were funny after it happened, right? And then my mother would say, you have to laugh to keep from crying. So, I was trained to find the humor in something instead of being actually emotionally. Because
you can be one or the other. You can be miserable or you can laugh,
exactly.
Right? Those are your choices. Those are the two damn masks they put on the fucking.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you
theater.
Get. So yes, I agree. And yeah, Gen X in particular is very, very good at that.
Yeah.
I do among the things you sent, I will tell you jokes, whatever. We told a couple of jokes.
Yeah.
They're funny sometimes, yada, yada. Insults, I do not like.
Okay.
If you're going to insult somebody, no thank you.
So I would say 90% of the time I'm with you on that. But I was looking back on the history of comedy. I watched a lot of comedy videos today in preparation for the show. And, there's a style of comedy, the roast, if you will.
Yes. That would be the one exception.
Which is because it's basically like a friendly jabbing.
Because the person is in on the joke.
Right.
They know they're there to be roasted.
Well, okay, to that effect, though, also, me and your partner, Matt, share an affinity for yo mama jokes, which are insults, are they not?
They are, but they're usually, I will agree in that instance, they're usually harmless. They're usually not... they're usually not your actual mama.
Because my mom's real tore up about that one. She was real sad.
Right, and your mama jokes are...
I was like, keep my mom's name out of your mouth.
And of course, folks, dear listeners, one of the reasons this is particularly funny to us is we have a friend who his coping mechanism was your mom jokes. And anytime he would get uncomfortable with a topic of conversation or whatever, he would just automatically say, but your mom is, or your mom, or whatever, some sort of your mom joke. And so a couple of years ago at Dragon Con, we decided to take this to the next level, to essentially the prank level.
Yes,
right?
yes, exactly, to the prank level.
And you didn't even know this guy that much. That
I had met him a time or two, but I'd heard so many stories from Matt about how every sentence ended with your mom.
Yeah, and Jay, who of course is one of our most valuable listeners.
Yes,
Jay is actually pretty close to this friend. So these three gentlemen decided to basically go drag. But kind of like Golden Girls style, you know, like moo-moos and the curly wig and some pearls. And we literally, this was a costume that lasted about a minute and a half.
It was just a joke. It was just, we put this costume on for a fucking joke.
We heard that he was coming to the bar where we were. These guys ran back to the room real quick to change their costume and come back in time. And he walks into the room to see the three guys dressed as your mom.
Oh, he says, what the hell are you supposed to be? And we're all in unison, your mom.
And the worst part was, this is his go-to joke, and I don't think he thought it was that funny. I thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever heard in my life. I still think
we're still laughing about it.
Yeah, it's been 4 or 5 years.
I mean,
So, it's true.
But yeah, so you say, yeah.
Insults in general, and I think there are categories of insults, but if you're just going to be an insult
I get you, because insults, they operate on the idea, they skirt on the idea of punching down, which is not funny in my opinion.
I agree, yes.
And that's where, if it gets real personal,
Right, which we weren't going to talk about it, but that is kind of what happened at the event that is going unnamed with the celebrities that we're not naming, is that the one comedian celebrity said a joke that probably he should not have said.
Yeah, although I will say, everybody's acting like you're supposed to know that the victim of said thing, that everyone was aware that what was going on, and everyone. I'm sorry, but I know a lot of shit about her life, and that ain't one of the things I knew about her life.
Well, what is particular, because the the comedian in question actually made a documentary about the very subject.
And
that's case,
it is a little insensitive. I've had some talks with some friends in the last week, and a better joke would have been this: Wakanda forever. And nobody would have had any fucking thing to say because that's a joke, but at the same time,
it's positive.
It's positive because who doesn't love the Dora Milaje?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. That would be a great.
That would have been the better joke.
Well, and also let's talk about a joke that's so outdated that literally
like he was grasping.
20% of the people watching the show knew what it was.
Yeah, like. If I hadn't read a bunch of things prior to watching the clip, I wouldn't have fucking known what he was referencing. Like, I don't even remember that damn movie. Like, I guess I remember that it was a thing. It was a big deal. I guess only because Demi Moore shaved her head for the fucking movie.
Right.
I never saw the damn movie.
No, I've never seen the movie.
Like, I'm sure it wasn't as good as Private Benjamin.
Well, and frankly, I think... Yeah,
that's a Goldie Hawn movie, by the way.
I know what movie that is. Thanks.
Okay.
But and one of
what was funny? That one was actually funny.
True, it was actually funny. But one of the things about, I suppose, just the reference itself. If you didn't know it was a movie, you'd get what it meant. You know what I mean? Like GI, and then Jane instead of Joe. Like you'd get what that was.
Yeah.
If you never saw the movie, but then it sounds like even more of an insult.
Sure.
So. If you don't get the reference,
I guess, yeah. I mean, the punishment didn't fit the crime, but whatever, you know.
Yeah, no, and that's a whole other topic that
we're not really getting into it. We don't need to talk about it.
Everybody's talked about it to death.
All right, but so moving on from insults. Sorry, pranks. That's the thing. Oh my god. So that's my granddad. That was my granddad's thing. He loved fucking pranks. He was a prankster. He liked to like pull bullshit on you, and sometimes they were funny, and sometimes they weren't. God, I had this book when I was a kid. Well, I say kid. I was 15. I got this book, and it was like funny pranks to pull on people, you know. And some of them were funny, but some of them, I swear to God, they were like malicious. Like these were like attempted murder. Some of them. It was like if you have a friend, and he goes to the gym all the time. Sneak in there while he's in the gym and smear Vaseline all over the shower stall floor. And then when he comes in, he'll slip and fall. And I'm like, dude, that's not fucking funny.
Right. Yeah, that's manslaughter. But no, I agree. And that's why, so along with insults, I think pranks, it has to be like, yeah, it has to be very specific because otherwise it's just bullying.
Well, I mean, yeah, it needs to be good spirited and the person needs to understand, like, and I think it needs to be relevant, I guess, to the person, right?
Right.
You know, like I did this one April Fool's. I did this to my uncle. I had this uncle, and he fucking loves salt. Like, you could give him a fucking salt lick, and he would pour salt on it, okay? And so that April Fool's...
See, that's a funny joke right there by itself.
That April Fool's, I dumped the salt out, and I put sugar in it.
Yeah.
And he came in for lunch, and he started sugaring the steak. Boy, he shook sugar all over this fucking steak.
Yeah.
And then he went to eat it, and he said... Woo, that sure is a sweet steak. And then I was like, I put sugar in the salt shaker, and he was upset, but I mean, he
right. I mean,
he understood he eats too much fucking salt.
Right, and that's fairly harmless. Like you're not gonna it's not funny to put arsenic in the salt shaker.
I mean,
it is when you say it, but
it sounds funny.
But don't do
that. Don't do that. We didn't say to do that.
Yes. So the other thing that you sent me, which I think this is probably along with just like stream of consciousness humor, this is probably some of my favorite is wordplay.
Yeah.
So puns, rhymes, onomatopoeia, things like that.
Yeah.
So the things that Shakespeare
exactly.
did.
Yes.
Like he invented a lot of
that. Yeah. It's funny because a lot of people say puns are like the lowest form of humor. So puns kind of work the same way as pranks and insults to a degree because what makes them funny is when it gets a rise out of somebody.
Right.
Because there is a whole like group of people who like puns like are the fucking worst thing ever to them.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But it's like an easy way to push their buttons, kind of.
Right.
And so to me, that's like I feel like people whose buttons are easily pushed deserve to have their buttons pushed.
Well, see, I think sometimes that veers into bullying.
It does. Yeah, I'm willing to accept that might be the case. But at the same time, if you make the world harder for yourself, you know what I mean? If you're the kind of person who's easily, you know, easy to get a rise out of, other people are going to notice that about you, and they're going to probably get a rise out of you an awful lot. So you need to learn coping mechanisms.
Well, sure. So here's what I'll say about that: get a rise out of somebody, do it with a pun. Don't do it with a prank.
Okay.
You know, like don't do it with something that will actually physically impact that person.
Oh yeah.
Make them groan. Make them walk away. Make them, you know. That's fine. But I think once you get into like physical assault, we should probably not do that.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like if some stupid little thing, like I used to work with this guy, and he was like a very stick up his ass kind of guy, right? Like he was a suck up to the corporate types. This guy was like this. I was working at the bank. I was in my late 20s. And this guy was in his early 50s, and he was working at the bank, and he was about the same level I was, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Which was a peon, essentially. Okay, if you're 56 years old and you've been working at the bank your entire life and you're still at the same level as some 20-something-year-old, the corporate kiss-up thing is not working for you.
Mm-hmm.
Give it the fuck up. So that was part of my issue with him was that he was a corporate suck-up. But he was like you know, just like yes man, like whenever there would be a meeting or whatever, he'd be like, oh yeah, very good, and he was that guy. And he would come into the break room every fucking day, and he would turn if the TV was on anything except for the financial news, he would turn it to the financial news. So I made it a point of every time I walked into the break room, I would turn it to the Cartoon Network or Comedy Central.
So yeah, that's fair. It's fairly
because it was an easy thing to do to get a rise out of this fucker, you know. Anyway. At some point, he got so bent out of shape because every time he walked in there, it was on fucking Cartoon Network or Comedy Central that he went and reprogrammed the entire TV so that it only worked on the financial news. That was it. Like CNFM was the only channel it got. Listen, 2 days later, was a big corporate announcement on the intercorporate TV station, which somebody had programmed out of the TV.
Right.
So we all went to the break room to watch this big corporate announcement that we couldn't watch.
Right.
Because some fucker had fucked with the TV.
Whoops.
And that was a big because this guy was such a fucking suck up to corporate. Sorry.
Bless you.
Then it turned around and bit him in the ass.
Yeah, it
and
sure
I was
did.
like, ha 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 ha.
Exactly.
Delicious irony.
But see, yeah, exactly. That's the moment where the joke was on him.
The joke was on him.
Yeah.
And then he got a dressing down for having fucked with the TV, because then there was like this whole edict that went out and was like, nobody fuck with the damn TV anymore. Like, stop screwing with it. Like, you know. And I was like, you know, because it was just a little thing that got a rise out of this dumb guy who just had hard on for corporate for some reason. And like I said, I don't understand why. I bet you he's still fucking working there because he can't afford to retire because he's still a peon in the same position.
So wordplay, puns, rhymes, onomatopoeia, and we'll get to this actually, we probably should get to this now because otherwise we might not.
Okay.
As you know, my favorite form of comedy. What would that be?
Musical comedy.
Musical comedy. Which is, in and of itself, entirely wordplay, right?
Yeah. I guess it is. Yeah.
That's the entire concept. It's putting together.
That's right. It is putting together words
and music to make it funny.
It is.
So, okay. Yeah. So here's what I wanted to say about that. I have notes.
You got whole things to say. Get on it.
So it's not just songs with punchlines, although some of those are very funny. It's also songs that are funny just because they're about a funny thing. So, for example, if you want to check some out, there's a band called Paul and Storm, and they do a lot of punchline humor. Like they've got a song called "You Left Me," which is about cutting someone in half. She left me.
Oh, she made just the left of me.
She left me, yes. And there's a song called "Who Are You," which the first time I ever heard it performed, it starts out as this like sincere love song, like, you know, I watched you sleeping and tenderly I cried, and then blah, blah, blah. And then you opened your eyes and looked at me and said, "Who are you?" It was so funny. I literally fell out of my seat because I had not heard it and it was hilarious. But that's a punchline. Like, it's only funny the once because Once you know the joke, it's the joke.
Yeah, then you have to like it. You have to like it as a song.
Yes.
After that.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. Like sometimes these punchline songs are funny the first time, and then they're not funny.
They're just not.
But then, like there are a lot of the bands I love are popular for having written kind of funny songs. I mean, Them Would Be Giants, Dead Milkmen.
Mm-hmm.
But they have to be the kinds of songs that are musically a good song,
yes.
in addition to being funny.
Yes.
For it to be funny, or for you to continue to listen to it after you got the punchline, right?
Exactly.
Like, so yeah, there's that.
So,
and I wanted to say this because to differentiate musical comedy from musical comedians.
Mm-hmm. Just a comedian with a guitar.
Oh God, I hate comedian. If I see a comedian, if I'm watching one of those comedy specials and then like the third comedian always comes out with a fucking guitar, I'm like, this guy's gonna suck ass, because I guarantee it's gonna be a CDG song. I mean, like the lowest common denominator folk song, basically, and it's gonna have dicks or farts or something in it. It's basically just gonna be a dick or fart joke that wouldn't have worked without it being set to music.
Right.
And so it's a bad song and it's bad comedy. It's like both things are bad. We didn't even get to scatological humor, which I had on my list.
Yes.
And I want to say there's a time and a place for it, I guess. Like when you're 14, it's funny as fuck, right? And it's not funny when you're an adult. Sometimes it is funny, but there's a nuance to. I don't know how to explain it. Like you can make it funny, but it's not always funny, and it's not funny by itself, I guess. Like just like, hey, poop and pee, ha.
Yeah, exactly. But because you've written a song about it,
right?
Which is what makes like obviously Weird Al, right? He's the gold standard.
Sure, but he doesn't write about poop and pee at all.
Almost never, mostly food. But his songs, like you've got a couple categories. You got 3 categories.
TV.
well, no, specifically you've got parody.
Okay.
And then you've got the originals that are like a style parody. And then you've got his polkas.
Right.
And the polkas are just the actual song, but in polka
form. A polka cover, yeah. And he does those as a big medley usually.
Yeah,
like,
usually.
It'll
Except
be like
for one, which was Bohemian Polka.
Oh, because it was long enough by itself.
Rhapsody.
It's long enough by itself. But yeah, normally he does a medley because he wants to make it like 7 minutes long.
Yeah, exactly.
And the polkas are so damn fast that he goes through the whole song
exactly.
in like 30 seconds.
Super, super fast.
No, and so musical comedy, I wanted to mention a couple of artists. Weird Al, obviously, probably the gold standard, as you said. Going back to the originals, Tom Lehrer,
yes.
Roger Miller,
yes.
Ray Stevens before he became like racist and xenophobic.
Yeah.
You know, in his early days, he was a pretty good musical comedy writer. Tim Minchin is like the newer. You know, everybody likes Tim Minchin.
I love Tim Minchin.
You said Jonathan Colton.
Yeah, Jonathan Colton is one of my favorites. Haywood Banks is hilarious. Paul and Storm, I like. Molly Lewis, you check her out. She's hilarious. And of course, my personal favorite is Rachel Bloom, who had a television show that was a comedy and also a musical comedy. But she's also written other original comedy songs, and I think she is one of the funniest people on the planet.
Oh, Jason Segel also.
Jason
Pretty
Segel,
damn
yes,
good musical comedian.
Absolutely.
I mean, good comedian anyway, but also writes a good damn song, I would say, and funny songs.
For sure. Yeah, so, like, about the things that are, like, it's not a punchline. Like, Jonathan Colton, one of the reasons I love him is, I mean, he's a nerdy musician that writes songs that are about funny topics, but the songs aren't necessarily funny other than they are written about that thing.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, he's got a song called I Crush Everything that's about being a sea monster. And, like, one of the lines, and he says, I saw him tell this story I went on his cruise.
Okay.
He told this story, like, people think this is, he can tell when people have never seen him before and never heard this song before because they laugh out loud while everybody else in the audience is crying. So the lyric is, and the dolphins are all phonies. They seem nice enough at first. They pretend to be your friends until they see what you're worst, and then they leave you. Without a word, they swim away. So, like, this is a sad monster who's super sad because even the dolphins aren't his friend. But anybody who doesn't, they hear a song, they hear the lyric, they're like, dolphins, they're hilarious, and they're laughing. But it's actually really fucking sad. And then I did... Like, I had to point out a couple of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend songs. One of my favorite is a song called You Stupid Bitch, which is basically an internal monologue about how stupid she is. one of my favorite parts is at the end of the end of a line for no reason. It's you're a stupid bitch, and it says, and lose some weight. And I think that's because that's the internal monologue, right?
Yeah,
that's how you think of it. You're like, I'm a terrible person. I'm the worst person in the world. I've done all these shitty things. Fucking lose some weight.
Yeah, that too. Like, while you're bettering yourself, do this. Also.
Exactly. And the other one I have to mention particularly is a song called Don't Be a Lawyer, where the line is honest to God. And this is actually a punchline, but it's also not. But there are so many other professions that won't turn you into Jeff Sessions. I mean, that's just funny as fuck, right?
Yeah.
That's just hilarious. So I'm a huge fan of musical comedy.
No, I'm a fan too. And I to the point of, I mean, like, most musicals, especially I would say since the late 80s, most musicals sort of write in this style where the shit's supposed to be funny, right?
Sure. There's some of that.
And I would say there was a period, even like I would say in country music, I would say the early 90s, I was a very big country music fan in like 93. And I don't know who the fuck was writing the music that year. But a lot of the country music was like, they were like, the songs were like a play on words. They were like a joke, like an extended joke, or they sounded like a music. Like some of them sounded like somebody wrote a like they tried to pitch this to Broadway, and it got rejected, so they took it to a country artist. But there was like a song by Pam Tillis called Cleopatra, Queen of Denial. Shit like that. Like those were big popular songs in the early 90s in country music. And I was like eating this shit up because it was a clever wordplay, and I was like amazed it was on country radio. Now this was before 9/11, when everything became
all about
Guns
Eagles
and Jesus and whatever.
These colors don't run. And, yeah.
But there was a time period when country music tried to be funny, and clever, and I was eating it up at the time.
Yeah, there's the song I mentioned, the Paul and Storm song that's called "You Left Me" or "She Left Me." I actually don't remember which, but either way, she cleaves him in half, and it's totally a parody. It's a style parody of like one of those types of country songs. Like the song is very country.
I got you.
But then the topic is also very country.
You know what's funny about that is because I used to, the song, the Chicago song, "The Biggest Part of Me."
Mm-hmm.
I used to, sometimes if I'm in the mood, I hear it on the radio, and it's like, if you leave me now, chop, you'll take away the biggest part of me.
Exactly. That is correct. All right, so let's go back a minute.
Yeah.
So types of jokes.
Sure.
And we started out talking about scatological.
Yeah, I don't care for it. Like, as a rule, I don't care for it, but it can be funny. It just depends. It's usually funny when it's mixed in with something smart.
Sure.
Like that's the thing. You got to juxtapose it, I suppose. Like, but if it's just like a 14-year-old being like poo poo pee pee farts pussy whatever,
right? Yeah.
Then it's like yeah, get out of here with that shit.
And then the next three.
Yeah.
They use. So dirty, racist, and sexist. I don't care for any of those.
You don't like a dirty joke even?
No,
even if it's
usually,
not remotely racist or sexist.
Because they're almost always at least misogynist.
I guess
I
imagine they probably are.
Yes. So almost always.
Okay.
I mean, obviously there are exceptions to every rule.
I don't know. I mean, like, so here's the thing. I mean, because a lot of most comedians, I would say, most stand-up comedians talk about their sex lives.
Right, and if it's about you, it's not a joke with a punchline. You know what I mean? Like, it's observational humor. But that ceases to be a joke. It's not something you're going to repeat to someone. I
got you. Okay. You don't consider that a joke, per se.
Not a joke.
It's a bit.
It's a bit. Yeah, a bit.
Okay.
A bit.
Fair enough.
But yeah,
I get you there.
A dirty joke is usually.
I was just
something
gonna say, I just feel like 90%
of
stand-up comedians talk about sex, which is a dirty joke per se, except for it's a dirty bit. It's a blue comedy bit.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that, especially when it's not. Again, it's more observational and self-aware,
right? Than
just telling a dirty joke about someone else, using the word slut because you can.
I'm not in favor of that either. I get you there. What's funny? So I want to take an aside for a second and talk just briefly about comedy in general, like stand-up comedy specifically, and some of my favorite stand-up comedians. I mentioned Carlin.
Yeah.
Steve Martin used to be. I used to love Steve Martin back in the day. Of course, he hasn't done stand up in fucking 40 years, so he's kind of irrelevant as far as that goes now. But I will say, like, I used to have all his albums. Also, I used to love the fucking Smothers Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Steve Martin actually used to write for the Smothers Brothers.
For sure.
That's where he got his start. But I loved both of them. I thought the Smothers Brothers and Steve Martin were hilarious, and I had a lot of albums by them when I was younger and collected albums. And then, like I said, Carlin. I loved Chris Rock. Chris Rock's a lot like Carlin, actually. He's kind of like in your face, like tells you a lot of blunt fucking truths. Blah, blah.
Sure.
I like Louis C.K. before his fall from grace.
Yeah, he can. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
He was funny. He made some bad personal decisions. Because his jokes were not about that. Like,
no, they weren't. They were. It's funny actually. Some of his jokes were totally about that.
Right.
You didn't realize how close to the fucking, like, I didn't realize at the time when he said, like, men do this, that, like, he wasn't saying, like, men do this. He was saying, I do this. I'm this person. I'm this horrible person who does this.
As it turns out.
Yeah. So some of that's like, it's cringy after the fact. But I used to think, oh God, this guy like told a lot of fucking truth. Like, and I guess he did. He just told it like in a way where you didn't realize it was like fucking between the lines. Shit. Who else is? I love Aziz Ansari. I know he's kind of mildly whatever, but I think he's funny as fuck. So aside from a lot of male comedians, I apologize, frankly, for not loving a lot of female comedians. I will say I've noticed. Well, it depends on what the material is, and I get it because it works both ways. Probably when male comedians spend most of their bits bitching about women, I imagine women probably don't find that funny either.
No, not much at all. No.
And I don't know if any of the male comedians I mentioned. Chris Rock, yeah, he can be a little go that way. I do know that for a fact. But anyway, so what I want to say is, so female comedians like Rita Rudner and I don't know. I'm trying to think back in the day. I would watch these kinds of things. Amy Schumer, I don't find funny. Like, they come out and they say their thing, and I go, that's not funny. And maybe it's because I'm not the target audience. I'm willing to admit that I'm not the target audience for it. In much the same way that maybe some women aren't the target audience for some of these male comedians. So I'm impressed when I do like a female comedian, because I used to think I hate female comedians, and then I started realizing, I like lesbian comedians just fine. Like,
it's not them, it's you.
I'm 100% fucking aware of that. Like that it's got everything to do with my reception of the comedy. Right. But I think Tig Notaro is one of the funniest people on fucking earth, right?
Tig Notaro is on my list when you mentioned stand-up.
Wanda Sykes. Hilarious.
Have you watched Fortune Feimster?
I don't know who that is.
Oh my gosh, she's fucking hilarious.
Oh, a friend of mine's really into Amy's into her and told me about
fucking hilarious. Yeah. And she also happens to be a lesbian comedian, but she's also hilarious. But Maria Bamford is my other top comedian.
I don't remember who the fuck it was, but recently I was watching, sometimes Facebook will pitch me these, like, watch a couple videos, and I'm like, okay. And I was watching one, and I didn't catch who the name of the comedian was, but she was a comedian, and she wasn't a lesbian for a change. And she was telling a joke, and it was a sexual joke. But she was talking about being on top and sex, and she's like, I got on top recently, and I used to always wonder why you guys were up there sweating, and I'm like, no, I see, it's a lot of work. And I actually laughed at that.
That's funny.
I was like, oh, okay, that's fucking funny. Like, so it's not, I guess it's just the material. I don't fucking know.
Sure, and they're just like any comedian of any sexual orientation or gender. Some people are funnier than others.
Yeah.
I think Maria Bamford cracks me the fuck up. Jen Kirkman is another one of my favorites.
Okay.
She cracks me up, and obviously, as we've mentioned, Rachel Bloom cracks me the fuck up. So, I mean, I think they're out there, is what I'm saying.
No, I'm not. I've never thought that there was like a diehard, like, oh, I can't fucking love a straight female comedian. I just hadn't heard them yet, is the way I always felt about it. Like, I'm sure she's out there. I just haven't heard her.
So, yeah, I recommend Fortune Feimster, Maria Bamford, and Jen.
And
Kirkman.
I don't really, and to back it up, I don't really fault the fucking straight female comedians who their whole bit is men be so dumb, blah, blah, blah. I get it.
Right, because men be so dumb.
No, I totally get it. I get where you're coming from. I mean, honest to God, that was half of what made Louis C.K. refreshing, was half of his bit was men be so dumb.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize he was talking about Louis C.K.
Exactly.
At the time,
Exactly.
you know.
So yeah, I just recently I binged an entire series that was, oh crap, now all of a sudden I don't remember her name. Pamela, she did the voice of Stewie in The Family Guy. Pamela Adlon. And she has her own sitcom. It's a situational, it's that situational humor. It's not like a sitcom like everybody laughs at.
Oh, okay.
But it was produced originally by Louis C.K. He still has credit on it, but he was kicked off that production team a while back.
He had his name on the Tig Notaro show too, but she asked for him to please remove it because I don't want people not to watch my program because your name is on it or whatever.
But Pamela Adlon, I mean, she does a lot of voice acting and things like that, and she's been in a handful of other things. But her own series, like, it's not laugh out loud punchline funny.
Right.
It's just situationally funny. Like, it's her life. And Joe's just right behind us. It's her life, and it's funny because it's true. Yeah. And I think that was really funny.
So we didn't finish even this stuff, did we?
Oh yeah, no. But we have these to do.
All right.
One-liners, knock-knock jokes, and Shaggy Dog stories.
Sorry, because I wanted to talk about the Shaggy Dog story for a brief moment. And one of my favorite comedians recently passed, Norm Macdonald, the master of the fucking Shaggy Dog story, I would say.
Sure.
Which is a Shaggy Dog story is a joke that takes a long time to get to the punchline. It's kind of a lame joke usually. And it's twice as funny because it takes a circuitous route to get to the punch.
If done by an expert.
And it's done by an expert, but Norm Macdonald fucking could deliver.
He absolutely could, for sure.
He had some great, and I'm not going to repeat it here because we don't have time for the shit, but I want everybody to go out. If you want to hear a fucking good joke, go Google Norm Macdonald moth joke and listen to that shit. You will laugh your ass off. I've listened to it 20 times and I laugh every time I hear it. It's that good. Also, another one, this is one actually, a Shaggy Dog story, by the way, not Norm Macdonald joke, but it's a joke every fucking comedian, every professional comedian knows this joke. And they all tell it a different way. They all put their spin on it, but it's a Shaggy Dog story. It's called The Aristocrats.
Oh, yep. Yeah,
and there's actually a documentary out called The Aristocrats where it's got like 20 or 30 different comedians telling the same fucking...
Bob Saget, and
Drew Carey, a bunch of people in it. But anyway, you get to watch them all tell The Aristocrats joke in their own way. Fucking hilarious. I highly recommend it.
I agree. That's
and that's a dirty joke, by the way.
It is.
It's a very dirty joke.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably the dirtiest joke I've ever heard.
I agree, but in this case, it doesn't. It's relatively victimless.
Oh, it's a made up fictional family.
Exactly.
If it makes you feel any better.
And that every comedian tells it 100% different.
Yes.
Like the only thing the same for many of them is the family. So and the punchline.
Exactly. The punchline's always gonna be the same.
Yes.
But fucking look up The Aristocrats. It's probably on YouTube.
Yeah.
I know that the Norm Macdonald moth joke is on YouTube. Check both those things out. They're fucking hilarious.
All right. So you sent me a bunch of rapid fire. Well, like 4 rapid fire.
4 rapid fire questions.
Let's do them.
All right.
Favorite comedy movie?
The Jerk by Steve Martin.
It's a good choice, except I watched a clip of it recently and realized how racist it
was. It didn't age well.
Did not.
It's still got some good bits in it, though.
It does, though.
It's got some classics. Mrs. Nussbaum's credit card. Come on. Which we were just talking about.
Except that's the one that has a bunch of Italian men pretending to be Mexican thugs.
Right, but no, I wasn't. That's not my favorite bit. My favorite bit, I don't know what my fucking favorite bit in The Jerk is. Oh, probably the new phone book scene. I don't fucking know. Man, it's got so many. It's classic. It's got so many good things in it. You got to overlook. It's made in the early 70s. It's got some dumb shit, some stereotypical horseshit in it. But oh man, it's fucking all right. Second up, another Steve Martin movie.
Oh, that's your second choice.
My second choice, yeah.
I didn't know.
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid.
All right,
which is all black and white, and they use a bunch of clips from classic noir movies.
Yeah.
And they intersperse them in a way to like make it like Humphrey Bogart is one of the people in the movie or something. It's so fucking dumb and stupid, but I laugh and laugh.
All right. My all-time I know this is relatively recent comparatively, but my favorite comedy movie is Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh, that is a good one. I don't love Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but I love the follow-up.
Like the
get him to the Greek.
Yes.
that's in my top 10 also. I fucking love Get Him to the Greek.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall, we went to see it in the theater, and honestly, the only reason we saw it was because I was a big fan of Freaks and Geeks, and Jason Segel, and How I Met Your Mother. Jason Segel was in it, and I didn't know what to expect, and we went to this, movie theater matinee in a fairly uptight town in Georgia, and like it starts out with the full frontal nudity, like it's one of the first scenes. People started getting up and leaving.
Oh, yeah.
And we were literally rolling.
I don't even remember this. Do you see Marshall Brand's dick or something?
Jason Segel's.
Jason Segel's.
Yeah, right at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
It's at the very beginning of the movie.
I thought Russell Brand would be the one to show off his stuff, but okay. I couldn't even remember that part. But
no, it's so...
See, that's how unscarred by it I was.
Exactly.
I didn't give a shit.
The movie is funny, and part of the reason I think it's funny is because it incorporates musical humor.
Yeah.
The whole point is that he's writing a Muppet musical about Dracula.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking funny. I can't stop laughing.
It is. And so getting to the Greek, Jason Segel's character is not in that one.
Right.
The Russell Brand character is, but Jason Segel wrote most of the music for it. The music is fucking brilliant, which is like musical comedy. I fucking like. He's got 2 really great songs in that one I love. So that's why I like that one so much.
Yes. All right. Favorite comedy TV show?
Oh, gosh. Favorite comedy TV?
You sent me the question.
The State.
Okay.
MTV's The State was a skit comedy show in the early 90s.
Yeah, I'm totally...
Fucking...
That counts as alternative.
Yes, it was all absurd. It was like the shit like came out of nowhere.
Yes.
Oh my God, those guys. Well, you know them all because they're on Reno 911 and shit like that. Most of them went on to other things. But most of them are on Reno 911. I would say like a third of them at least.
A good chunk of them. They also, a lot of them were in Wet Hot American Summer.
Yeah. And
then the sequel series they did to that.
Right.
And that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Too.
Those are funny guys, but goddamn, like some brilliant fucking skit. You know, my favorite skit that the State did was the one, I don't know if you remember this, but it was about Alfred Stieglitz and Georgia O'Keeffe. And it just kind of like devolved. Like it starts out like it's about Alfred Stieglitz and Georgia O'Keeffe, and then at the end they're like grinding and there's like telling like insult jokes to each other. And it's just so fucking stupid. So it's like this highbrow lowbrow thing. That's just hilarious. I love highbrow lowbrow. That whole concept. Okay, sorry. Let's move on.
Oh no, it's fine. But obviously, I think you know what mine is, right? My favorite comedy TV show.
Oh, it's Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, obviously.
Obviously, but if you're talking like, exactly. But if you're talking
exactly, oh yeah, Barry and Levon.
Like if you are talking about like skit comedy, I was a child of Kids in the Hall.
Kids, I love the Kids in the Hall too.
Totally
that's also good stuff.
All right.
Oh yeah. You painting a chair?
Funniest character on The Simpsons.
Oh, for me, it's the sea captain. He delivers the best fucking lines.
For me, it's literally none of them. I think The Simpsons sucks.
You never liked it, not even in its heyday, like the first 8 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I did. I watched it. I thought it was funny, but the last 30 seasons have.
No. Okay, but I'm talking about
ruined me. I don't care
when Conan O'Brien was a writer for it back in the day.
That's the thing. I just don't care anymore.
You don't
might
remember
have been funny
the monorail episode? That was musical comedy, and that was Conan O'Brien, by the way.
That's true.
Who wrote that one?
But
also fucking hilarious, Conan O'Brien. I love that guy.
Conan O'Brien is funny.
Favorite late night TV host, Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'd probably go with that too. To be honest, I had a brief moment of what's his name, Craig Ferguson, but
Craig Ferguson, he'd probably be second. Yeah, I get you there. Disco Stu doesn't advertise.
Yeah, no, I got. After the first few years, I was over The Simpsons, and now I don't care about.
Listen. Once the Treehouse of Horror quit being funny, I quit watching, which was probably about episode. I think that was about season 13. So then I haven't watched any of it since then. But whatever. Right. I'm just okay.
All right. Best SNL cast as best Saturday Night Live cast member of all time.
Phil Hartman.
Decent choice. Also,
it's because of the skit. Frankenstein, Tonto, and Tarzan.
Yeah.
Which was actually they did 3 times, which was a fucking absurd skit. Mm-hmm. Speaking of your absurd comedy. Mm-hmm. My favorite skits, by the way, real quick. The Bean Cafe with Tom Hanks. I don't know if you ever saw that. Take Off Your Shirt with Woody Harrelson. You can look all these up on YouTube. You Like It a Juice? You remember that one? You Like It a Juice? That one's recently reappeared on the internet. It's got the guy from Seinfeld. What's his name? Jason
Alexander. Yes.
Right. Actually, they did 2 skits of You Like It a Juice, which was because it was such a stupid skit. When they brought it back the second week, it was even twice as funny because nobody thought it would bring it back, and it was that dumb. Ha ha! Oh my god. Anyway, sorry. That's some shit. But Phil Hartman, he did all the he always had prosthetics and shit. He was like the man behind the mask. He was a straight man for every joke.
Yes.
And that's what I loved about him was because he had to get up there and play the straight man. Fucking so goddamn good timing. I don't know. Just he made every bit he was in was funny.
All right. So you said of all time.
Of all time.
And I went of all time. I had to go with Gilda Radner.
Okay, fair enough.
I just had to. She was a genius in her day. She was part of a comedy power couple in her time. But other, I grew up in the Dana Carvey, Mike Myers era. Yeah. So I still think some of their shit was the funniest. Okay. And I think Tina Fey is fucking hilarious.
I agree with you. I like Tina Fey a lot. She was the writer for Kimmy Schmidt, was one of my favorite comedy shows.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I love all those people. It was hard to pick. It wasn't like without hand wringing to pick that, but at the end of the day, my favorite era was probably the Dana Carvey.
Yeah, because I think that's our era.
Yeah, exactly. The late 80s.
Yeah, that's Gen X. It was boomers doing comedy for Gen X.
Right, but Phil Hartman was the man behind it for me. Every skit he was ever in, I laughed at.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. All right. No, I think. Well, we don't. It's 8:06.
Oh, all right. We need to get the fuck off the internet. I guess.
We need to get the fuck off the internet. So we don't have a mailbag and we don't have the things that are extra because, well, we but hopefully, so send in your stories and ideas and thoughts and comments and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
We would love to talk about it.
Sure.
But otherwise, why don't you take us away?
All right. Bill Has Opinions is introduced. You do
it every time.
I keep saying
every time.
Bill Has Opinions is produced and engineered by Laura.
I mean, it's kind of like introduced is what you're really
introduced. It's introduced. It was like you did introduce it to the world.
I do also do that. That's part of my job.
Anyway, the opinions of Bill are his and his alone, unless the ones she agrees with, and then we both agree, or she has a thing and I don't like it. Like she likes the Rachel Bloom, and she's okay to me, but she's not my favorite. So
God, she's the funniest fucking person.
See, on this there you go. That's what I'm just trying to make a point that sometimes we disagree. We don't share the opinions. That's what I'm saying. Anyway, aside from all that, our advertisers don't have anything to do with it because they don't even pay us a dime. So you leave them out of it legally.
We pay them. I'm gonna go to the restaurant and pay a lot of money.
Right, exactly.
On Thursday.
So anyhow, aside from all that, be sure to follow us on YouTube. So that's right. Like and subscribe. Be sure to like and subscribe.
Oh yeah, like and subscribe on YouTube.
And then follow us on Facebook. We'll be back next week, same time, with a different subject, which I don't know.
I don't either. I sometimes try to write it down and then I forget.
Yeah, and then anyway, we'll have a new topic for you, and it'll be something different than tonight. Yeah, I'm sorry. But anyway, that's what it'll be. And yeah, that's it. That's all of it, right?
That's the show.
Take it away.
Let's
cue the music.
All right, cue the music. Bye, everybody.